We maintain our links with Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Municipality in South Africa, whilst our long-standing European links with local authorities in Paris, Antony, and Berlin, Charlottenburg, Wilmersdorf continue to allow our residents to make their own connections. We are in the process of developing a technical partnership with Kingston, Jamaica, and our thoughts are with our colleagues in that city at this particularly difficult time for them. The partnership is about fostering knowledge sharing and mutual learning. It's been developed through the Commonwealth Local Government Forum for Good Practice scheme with some support from the Department for International Development. And we were asked if we wanted to participate in that scheme. The most immediate impact of it will be that the world-famous Lewisham technology will be deployed in making Kingston cleaner and greener. But there are, of course, very strong links between Lewisham and Jamaica, and I hope that this relatively narrow technical scheme may provide a way for us to develop further links between our two communities over time, but that remains to be seen. At the start of a new administration, it is important that we attempt to understand what the electorate have said to us. Ahead of us, there will be dialogue and discussion inside this chamber, outside with our community and with special interest groups. But where do we start from? The electorate in Lewisham made clear their enduring support for Labour, and I say that without any sense of triumphalism. Indeed, I suspect that the result surprised me as much as it did members of other parties. We thus find ourselves in a position where there is a disconnect between local and national policymakers. And it would be very easy to disinter the rhetoric of the 1980s and declare our opposition to the cuts that the coalition is proposing. Actually, if I can digress for a moment, just to consider that coalition, not so much as a politician, more as the student of politics I once was. I'm reminded of a comment that the Irish Home Rule MP Tom Kettle once made. He said, "When in office, the Liberals forget their principles and the Tories remember their friends." I've no doubt that the present happy couple intend to prove that aphorism wrong. The coalition took office almost 70 years to the day after the last and greatest coalition in our history, Churchill's wartime government. Yet even that ended unhappily, with Churchill sent into the wilderness in 1945. Putting together two parties, each of which already contain a wide spectrum of opinion, is, I would venture, a high-risk strategy. If the coalition is to endure, it is almost inevitable that the Eurosceptic wing of the Tory party will depart at some point, and quite probably some of those Liberal Democrats whose natural home is a European Social Democrat rather than a Christian Democrat party. We may be witnessing the beginnings of a significant realignment within British politics that can only be accelerated if alternative vote is adopted for parliamentary elections. We learnt at the election a few weeks ago in Lewisham that there is a very clear progressive majority in this borough, and I think we may all need to consider some of the implications of what has happened in the few weeks since in the years ahead. During the last 4 years, by and large, we found ways to make sure that political differences, local political differences, didn't get in the way of our core job of working on behalf of the people of Lewisham. Now, I would be lying if I didn't say that having both a substantial individual majority and a comfortable majority in this chamber is a source of personal satisfaction. But I also want to say that I believe we should continue to work together for our borough over the next 4 years, just as we did over the last 4 years. It is my intention to invite the leaders of both Conservative and Liberal Democrat groups to meet privately with the Chief Executive and myself to discuss Lewisham's relations with the government. We have, of course, enjoyed good links and easy access since 1997, but prior to that, and notwithstanding political differences, the borough did sustain a good working relationship with the previous Conservative government, and we must seek to do so again. When I spoke a moment ago of the no-cuts rhetoric of the 1980s, I did so in the knowledge that whatever the outcome of the general election, there would have been severe cuts to public expenditure. All that was open to question was how much and how soon. Many of us will disagree with some, possibly many, of the individual proposals which will emerge from the government, not only on finance but also on the wider agenda. For example, personally, I think the idea of elected police commissioners is utterly wrong-headed, but then so do most Conservative council leaders that I've spoken to. There were things that the previous government did that I believe were equally mistaken. The expansion of Heathrow Airport being a good example. And here I must congratulate the coalition on putting that one right so quickly. Phil Graham, who advised John McCain during the last election and was a very experienced American politician, said that balancing the budget is like going to heaven. Everybody wants to do it, but nobody wants to do what you have to do to get there. We will have to reduce expenditure significantly, and unless we transform the way public services are delivered, the impact on many in our community could be devastating. We must proceed with care and engage all those who are affected, both the users of the services and those who deliver them. Simplistic distinctions between those two groups misses the fact that many of the people who work on the front line in Lewisham live in Lewisham, and they and their families are also users of services. I fear that job losses are unavoidable, but we should not run away with the idea that they are in any way a soft option. During the election, I set out 4 key themes that will inform everything that I do over the next 4 years, and in particular, that process of going about reducing expenditure. To strive to protect those of our fellow citizens with the greatest needs. And this will mean the rest of us shouldering a greater burden, something that I believe is the basis of a just and caring community. To ensure that our young people don't lose out through lack of education, training, jobs or housing. We simply must not allow a lost generation to happen again. To develop local solutions to tackle climate change and pursue an ambitious target of cutting our carbon footprint. However great the financial challenges are, we must not lose sight of the fact that they are cyclical, whilst other challenges, if they are not met, will have irreversible consequences. And fourthly, to make sure that tolerance and respect continue to flourish in our community. We are blessed with good community relations in Lewisham, but we must never take them for granted. You will be relieved to know that it is not my intention to go through the policy programme that was endorsed by the electorate line by line. Well, I can. Officers are working on the practical implications, and soon enough we will be able to consider aspects of it.